lobby. Let's all go to the lobby, lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to Now Slaying, an It Slays podcast production where we break down the latest and greatest in the world of horror. I'm your not-so-humble host, Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And today on the show, we're going to be reviewing Bodies, 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 which was released last weekend, August 5th, 2022, in limited theaters, but has gone wide this weekend. Around these parts, it's pretty well known that I'm a huge A24 fanboy. But, Rowan, were you looking forward to Bodies, Bodies, Bodies?
Yeah, so I saw the trailer. I was, mildly interested. I feel like most of the world was like, oh my god, Pete Davidson. And we're in, peak Pete Davidson, cultural clout right now with the Kardashians and everything.
Yeah, he's kind of like the internet's fuckboy. I find, a lot of women of a certain age are just they'd give it up for Pete Davidson any day of the week, I think. And
yeah,
he's kind of making his way through Hollywood elite, over the past, probably about the last decade, at least last 5 or 6 years for sure.
Yeah, which I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm aged out or something. I don't really get it. I have no issues with him. I guess I don't get the appeal, comedy wise. I'm just kind of like, oh yeah, okay. It's just not for me, I don't think. But, yeah, so I was kind of mildly him in an A24 movie. That was, kind of my selling point from A24. So I was like, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's A24. We're going to go see it. So,
of course.
Yeah. I mean, they had, whether I was that interested or not, they had me hooked anyway to go see it. What about yourself, Colton?
Yeah, obviously, anything A24, I'm pretty much gonna at least give it a little look. I'll at least watch the trailer. I'll check out the reviews online. I don't always watch everything they release because just like any studio, they release a lot of garbage as well. But when I did watch the trailer, I'm going to say that the writing I found was a little irritating. It was very Gen Z Zoomer sort of writing, but it almost felt to me as if someone who was kind of too old was writing it, maybe not someone of their generation. You might know a little bit more about that than me, considering you told me you watched some interviews and whatnot. But I did find that a little irritating. But out of South by Southwest, it got rave reviews. People loved this movie at South by Southwest, and it's, it had very positive critical reviews, which I didn't know going in, the Rotten Tomatoes score and whatnot. So yeah, I would say I was cautiously optimistic. The main thing that was keeping me optimistic is obviously A24's pedigree, and then also the cast. I'm not a big Pete Davidson fan either, but I have liked Amanda Sternberg and what I've seen her in, The Hate U Give, or Maria Bakalova in Borat 2. I thought she was excellent. And even Rachel Sennett, she's in Shiva Baby, which is a little indie coming-of-age movie that some people also describe as a horror, and she carries that movie completely on her back. So yeah, basically just based on the actors involved and the studio, I was cautiously optimistic, but also a little bit apprehensive, I'm not going to lie, going into this last night. So
yeah, I got kind of worried because, of course, I wasn't trying to spoil it for myself, but I was just kind of seeing the preamble come out of some of the early views, and I had saw someone kind of compare it to Spring Breakers, which I was really worried about because, as a massive Harmony Korine fan, I was not a Spring Breakers fan, so
neither am I. So yeah, I got kind of similar vibes as well going in.
Yeah, so I was a little worried when I sat down.
How was your audience? How was the theater? Was it full? Was it a packed house? Was it empty? I went I think 10:15 last night to see this, and I think there was probably 10 people in the theater. It was not very full, that's for sure. What about yours?
I was very surprised for a Friday night. I figured there would at least be, because normally you and I usually used to go on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Where you're not surprised there's not a lot of people there because they don't really push them being out till Friday. But I thought Friday night it's going to be hectic, and it was the same. I saw it mine started almost at 10:30, and I think there was about 8 to 10 people there, and we actually had a walkout about 20 minutes into it.
We had a couple of walkouts as well. Yeah,
a couple just left, and they were out.
Yeah, well, I mean, with that, before we kind of get into our thoughts on it, let's just hop into the theater and come back with the full review.
You guys, it's me. Why are you guys being so weird? Are you talking about me?
I'm gonna go.
Who wants to play bodies, bodies, bodies?
Our friend is dead. What do you know about Greg?
Hey, nerd!
He's a Libra moon, that says a lot!
What the f is going on? That would be so obvious if I were the killer.
Is it you?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
What you just heard is from Bodies, 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 directed by Helena Rain and written by Sarah DeLepp. And the story is as follows. When a group of rich 20-somethings plan a hurricane party at a remote family mansion, a party game turns deadly over the course of a night full of backstabbing, fake friends, and murder. Now, Rowan, here on Now Slang, we like to keep things relatively spoiler-free up front before getting into the more in-depth spoiler-filled discussion. With that in mind, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on Bodies, Bodies, Bodies?
I will say, I really like the way that it's shot. I really didn't know what to expect from the trailers. I feel like you said, other than the Gen Z lingo and talk, I didn't really know what to expect. So I was kind of worried. Like, I do trust A24, but I didn't know, like, am I going to get like a fully competent shot film, like, or is this gonna be just like some just pure trash? And I will say, like, I was very pleasantly surprised with the cinematography, like the lighting of it. I was like super impressed. I liked it. And the best part about it not being a spoiler is the music. Oh my god, I feel like on Now Slang, I never get to talk about the music. It's a vibe.
Go for it.
It's a vibe. I know if you're a fan of our podcast, that you're probably a fan of It Follows. The entire score is done by Disasterpiece, who did the It Follows score.
Wow, okay. I did not know that. I'm a huge fan of the It Follows score. It's one of the few horror scores that I will listen to, like, outside of just recognizing that it's in a movie.
Yeah,
course.
all the time. So I actually didn't know it was him. I till afterwards. So I will say that I didn't go in with that knowledge.
Okay.
But even, I don't know what song it is, but like the first song that plays, like at the beginning, even then, if you're our age, like, I don't know how old the people are listening. I'm a millennial, so I'm not a Gen Zer.
Dude, you must be like geriatric millennial. You must be like the upper end of millennial.
I was a little worried. I was like, at first I was like, I don't know about this song, and that always is like my first impression into any movie. And I was just like, man, this might really be a Spring Breakers situation. But, like, once you're in it, it works. Like, the music works. Unlike Spring Breakers, I thought a lot of the lighting from, like, the glow sticks and stuff actually was effective in this. Like, I liked the look of it, against this this hurricane party, which I feel is like another Gen Z thing. I had no idea what a hurricane party was, or
No, me neither. I mean, I've heard of people getting their storm chips, here on the island or in the Maritimes, or
yeah, we're about
batting
storm
down,
chips,
hatches.
but
yeah.
apparently this is like a whole other level. But I will say, like, overall, I was very pleasantly surprised. I think one of the real twists to the trailer and going in was, this is not, I think they marketed it as a slasher to me.
100%. Yeah.
And, I really don't think it's a spoiler saying, like, you're not going into a slasher. And I think that could be, like, one of the issues I had kind of thought, like, with the walkout. Because I was like, if you're coming in here and you're like, okay, I'm going to see this, like, Gen Z, whatever, like, Friday the 13th, or just some traditional slasher, it's really going to throw you off. This is like 100% a Clue movie. It's a whodunit. And I think if they were more telling with that in the marketing, I just think it, I don't think anyone would have walked out in our theater, because I was, like I said, I thought it was a pleasant surprise. I thought they did it pretty effectively. All of the young actresses killed it. Like, I thought everyone kind of showed up, did their thing. You listed them off. I was saying, like, before the cast, I was only really familiar with like 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a pleasant surprise all around. I always chuckle when it was funny to see what's his name, Lee Pace, in the role representing me in this movie, the older generation.
The old guy. Well, hopefully not actually you, because I don't think you're a guy who like hangs out with, I don't know, 18-year-old
I hope
girls
not.
drinking, hopefully not.
Yeah, like, I just thought it was funny, and I mean, if you recognize the name, I think, mainstream media, he's Ronan, Ronan the Destroyer from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians, yeah.
And the other guy, Connor O'Malley, who was a very pleasant surprise for me, because anyone that knows me knows probably my all-time favorite comedy show is I Think You Should Leave Now. And he is a mainstay in Tim Robinson's, like, any of his comedy work. He always shows up in it. I was just very pleasantly surprised, and I'll save most of it for spoilers, because this is a very spoilery movie. But you need to go see it. Don't look anything up about it. Don't ruin anything for yourself. But I'm going to give it like a strong recommend. I had a lot of fun with this, and I went in, I feel with hatred in my heart. I went in like being like, this isn't going to be good. I wasn't expecting it to be good. I just feel like I've been kind of let down this year with the horror entries. Yeah, I had so much fun. Like, I definitely want to go see it again. I want to take Exilia to go see it. Like,
shit, dude. All right.
I really enjoyed it. What did you think, Colton?
Yeah, I'll start off with the good. I will say I think the actors are all good, or at least putting in a performance that they were directed to do so. Like, once again, I do think Amanda Sternberg, I think Maria Bakalova, I think Rachel Sennett, I think they're all excellent. They're very good. They carry the movie. Pete Davidson, his portions of the movie, what he does, I didn't find him annoying. Some people really hate the guy. I don't feel strongly about the guy one way or the other. He made me chuckle a couple of times.
He was
that's
good.
what I'll say. The movie, it did make me laugh a few times. I could probably count them on one hand, but I'm kind of shocked with your take on the cinematography and lighting. I got a feeling this will be a love it or hate it thing. To me, I thought it was essentially just pitch black, basically the entire movie, lit up by, obviously, the flash on cell phones or the glow from the screen of the cell phone. And, dude, it was really hard to watch sometimes. I thought it was very, almost schizophrenic in the way it was framed. It wasn't really, thought out a lot. It was very shaky cam running around, which I understand is supposed to, induce the anxiety of running around and, what they're going through at the time of the movie. But I was not a fan of that. And also, I saw all these headlines after I finished the movie talking about how much it's oh my God, it's such a biting social commentary. It's the satire of this generation, Oh my God, it's the must-see horror satire of the summer, all this shit, right? And I was just like, maybe I'm too old. Maybe I'm just a boomer, despite me calling you the geriatric millennial. I don't know. A lot of it just kind of seemed on the nose or normal to me. People are attached to their phones, people are oversensitive or they'll backstab you. I won't get into all of it because it might delve into spoiler territory, but whatever they were doing a satire of, I either completely missed it or it was just so normal that it didn't even seem like satire to me. It just seemed like the text of the movie. So, I don't know. It wasn't one for me. Obviously, I'm kind of against the grain on this one. Like I said, it has a very high Rotten Tomatoes score. I was shocked by it. Most of the people on my Letterboxd are pretty positive on it. It seems like something you'll either give a 1-star or a 4 or 5-star. So once again, it's very divisive. I kind of like that we're almost on polar opposites here because it's probably not something I would recommend personally. So
I will say that the interview I listened to afterwards with the director, they said that it definitely isn't meant to be a satire. It just kind of has unfolded as one. I was gonna say, kind of interesting fact is she talked about that even though she said it was a pretty strong script, that a lot of it is improv, just because the people writing it, the people directing it, all that kind of thing, none of these people were Gen Zers, and that's
what I felt.
And all the actors were.
Yes.
So she said they really encourage, like she said, there's a lot of lines in it that like are just kind of free form. They wanted them to be like, you know, what would like the Gen Z say in these situations? You know, what would they be listening to? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was the type of thing, like, I didn't read anything in depth after the movie, after I finished it, to see what people thought or why people were calling it a satire masterpiece or anything. But it kind of felt like, to me, an older generation, like, let's say even one generation beyond millennial, you know, Gen Z X or whatever, I don't know, reviewing this movie and essentially being like, oh, I know what the kids are like now. I'm hip with the kids, you know. I watched this movie and now I understand what they're all like, you know. And it was just, to me, it once again felt like that one layer of separation where I feel like if it was actually written by Gen Z, you know, the Zoomers, I'd probably feel a little bit differently about it. I might even be more irritated by it, but at least I wouldn't have kind of this idea where it just kind of feels fake a little bit to me, or it feels like hello fellow kids type of vibe is kind of what I got from the movie. So, you know, I'm glad it worked for you. It certainly didn't work for me. I was bored silly for most of the movie. That one song that they play, we are bored in the house, bored. I was like, yeah, I'm vibing, you know, I feel it. I am bored in the house for sure. I mean, it's probably better to leave it there, you know. You got a strong recommend from Rowan. I would not recommend seeing this, but, you know, what I would say is the marketing is, like Rowan said, it kind of sets you up for a horror and for a slasher, and I think we'll just jump into this right away when we do get to the spoiler discussion. I don't know if I'd really call this a straight-up horror movie or a slasher. It's like what Rowan said. It's a murder mystery. And even then, it's like, in my opinion, it's not like a Knives Out or something. You know, it winds up being a lot of just characters sitting around talking for long periods in the dark, essentially. So, you know, your mileage may vary. Maybe you'll like it. I have no clue. But yeah, I guess maybe it's time to just cut to the spoiler discussion. All right, Rowan, we're in the spoiler discussion here. What do you want to get off your chest? Do we just want to jump into, is this actually a horror movie or not? Or
yeah, let's talk about that first.
Yeah, so that was kind of the biggest surprise when I was watching this movie. I went with a friend of mine, and we were both expecting just another like A24 horror movie, a slasher movie. And what we got was just a murder mystery that, spoiler, it winds up not really revolving around a murder. It winds up being just Pete Davidson accidentally killing himself, trying to, you know, saber a bottle of champagne and slitting his own throat, which kind of sets off like this anxiety-filled evening, I guess. You know, that's kind of, you know, added to by drugs and alcohol and whatnot, right? And it's played for like a joke. It's not like actually like horrifying. Like, I don't find the movies actually trying to elicit, you know, like horror for a lot of it. There are a couple like little moments where they try and do jump scares, but for the most part, it's just the characters wandering around in the dark, you know, figuratively and also literally, you know, in the dark.
Like I said, I mean, I guess I gave it, I was a little kinder on if it was a horror. You know, I don't think like kind of like you said, like, I don't think the violence or anything in it like makes it a horror. I think really the horrifying thing is just kind of the anxiety and like just the breakdown of these like friendships. And, you know, I've talked about in the main episodes before, like, one of my favorite things in horror is just like breakdown of society, breakdown of like human connection. And so to me, like, I could get the beats I guess they were trying to lay down of just like these, you know, these lifelong friendships just breaking down and kind of, you know, how even someone that you just met, like, how relationships change. And, you know, I'm sure, like I said, I think I'm a little older than probably the target audience for this. But I think,
yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think at that age, just kind of, you know, in your 20s, and, you know, that's kind of this anxiety lesson I feel we all learn, is where a lot of us, you know, grow out of friends that have known us forever and have that history, and gain new friends that might end up actually being better relationships, and just, you know, everything to do with relationships and the anxiety of it. I enjoyed the, I guess, creepy aspect, I thought, of that, as well as, you know, it's kind of funny because you said not the Knives Out, and I was, you know, trying to explain to Exilia what it was like, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of like Knives Out. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's like as good as Knives Out or not as good, But like I said, like Clue, something like that, like to me, I'm just using that as like this murder mystery, which, you know, I think has some merit in horror. I think it's kind of more almost on like a giallo, you know, Italian horror, just kind of, I mean, all giallos are essentially just whodunits. You know, we might get a little more slasher-esque violence in it, but it's really like who's the killer, and they usually throw you off who the killer is and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for me, I guess where you're talking kind of like the horror of like, you know, anxiety and the friendships dismantling and whatnot. It's like, yeah, I understand that that's horrifying if you're a kid or an adolescent or a young adult living through that. It was just, to me, it was like, it was played like, oh, the power's out. None of our cell phones are working. So now we kind of actually have to talk to each other and, you know, figure out how to like spend time with each other. And that was like kind of like the cause of why the relationships were dismantling, you know, actually having to talk with your friends face to face rather than just being fake and texting each other and stuff. And that's like, I don't know, people are talking about how it's biting social satire. And I'm just literally like, you do realize like people have known that social media and being attached to your phone and stuff has been bad for a long time, right? Like we're not breaking any new ground here that people are fake on social media and therefore can be fake with their friends, or, you know, that people are backstabbing and throwing each other under the bus constantly on there. Like, it didn't do anything for me. I've seen all this before. I mean, this has probably been discussed in movies since The Social Network, you know, 12 years ago. You know, it obviously that was from a slightly different lens, but like, yeah, of course I agree that the scenario they're put in is horrifying. I don't know if the movie does a good job, in my opinion, of framing it as a horror movie other than just the characters are anxious and full of drugs and alcohol and whatnot, kind of suffering through a night, right? It'd be almost like if someone told me Spring Breakers is a horror movie. And it's like, yeah, it's horrifying to me. I hate that movie. I don't want to watch it. But it's like, I don't know, just like the partying and the lifestyle. Like, I understand when people say that is horrifying. It's just, I don't know if I'd put it in the horror category, I guess. But
I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Kind of what else did I want to talk about? There's a line in the movie that this was one of the lines that really got me. People don't realize that podcasts are like really fucking hard. So what do you think? What do you think, Rowan? Do you think podcasts are really fucking hard? It was one of the talking points I wanted to talk about.
You know what? More power to them. They are real fucking hard. As someone that spends all his time editing, they're hard. I just think it, you know, it always amazes me as, you know, time goes that podcaster is always like a job in movies now. It's just like we always have to have the podcaster.
It's usually the butt of all the jokes too, right? It's usually just somebody sitting around, you know, just talking for 2 or 3 hours and people listening to them, or almost like a schlub, you know, like
100%. And I think it's interesting too, because it's always, you know, in films and television, and it's like, yeah, we're, you know, podcasting is pretty much like the complete opposite. We're not a visual, we're like purely audio. I giggled at all the whole podcasting joke when the whole argument of like, you know, I thought you said you listened to my podcast and you liked it, and I was dying. I was laughing. I think I was the only one laughing in the theater. I mean, you know, I think other than people that maybe like really listen to podcasts, it would be people like us that would find that funny, that just, like I said, I busted a gut at it. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I agree. That was the one joke in the movie that I'll remember. I thought it was very well executed. Once again, it's probably because we record podcasts, and I had a podcast before this podcast, so very familiar with it. I've also been listening to them for probably 15 plus years now, right? I love podcasts. So yeah, I really like that joke. And honestly, other than that, I really struggle to kind of think of some other jokes. There might have been some moments of physical comedy with Pete Davidson, or, you know, a line here or there. But honestly, my audience was like pretty dead. There was a conversation, I think, going for the whole movie, like near the back of the theater. I think people were just bored. There was a group of 2 or 3 people just talking the entire movie. They were low enough, but you could hear them whenever the movie would kind of quiet down a bit. And like I said, there was a couple of walkouts that I'm pretty sure they didn't come back, like 2 people. But yeah, I don't know, man. It was a movie that I really struggled to stay awake from. And obviously, as I've mentioned on the podcast, I do have a new job. I am working 12-hour days pretty much Monday through Friday every single week. You know, sometimes they're 13, 14-hour days. Does that affect when I go into the movie? Yeah, probably. I'm not going to lie, right? Like if I'm watching this movie after a 13-hour day, it's pitch black. the entire movie, and I'm struggling to stay awake through it. Yeah, it probably does impede my viewing experience a little bit. So yeah, podcasts are tough. You got to go and suffer through a movie you didn't really enjoy, after a 13-hour day.
I'll be interested because, my audience was kind of the same. They were very quiet. I think I was the only one that was kind of laughing and really, I felt enjoying it. Even when we left the theater, there was a younger couple in front of me that were definitely Gen Zers. They were like early 20s. And they looked very confused. They were just kind of like, what the fuck? And like I said, I just think the marketing was off. I'm really interested to see, as this has its wide release, like how it does box office wise. I feel like this could pick up a lot of steam with like streaming and home video, like just people finding it that way. Because I think, like I said, I really enjoyed it. I think people that maybe aren't willing to give it a chance in the theater, like, will think it's a gem like I do, and just kind of find it in that home video streaming market. I was curious. So, like, as you watched it, did you, how many times did you think you knew who the killer was? Like, I spent the entire, like, that's half the reason I loved it, because, I went in and I did the Rowan thing where I tried to guess, like, first 10 minutes. I'm like, yep, it's this person. And then I'm like, oh, this movie's stupid because I guessed it. I know that's who it's going to be. And this movie kept me guessing the entire time because we just kept killing people that I was guessing who did it.
Yeah, what I'll say is I certainly didn't guess that Pete Davidson killed himself accidentally with Saber, turning it around on himself. I never thought that. I did kind of think there'd be a rift in between, obviously, Maria Bakalova and Amanda Sternberg. When the movie starts out on them making out, a close shot of them making out, the implication is that they're going to be in a different place by the end of the movie, right? So, in terms of the killer, like, are you talking about just the person, like, obviously not Pete Davidson killing himself? You're talking about...
Yeah.
Are you talking about Maria Bakalova, like, bashing the guy in the basement? Or who specifically are you talking about? Because there's a few different killers, I guess.
Yeah, well, in that was what kind of took me for the twists and turns, was I thought for sure, like, Maria Bakalova, I was like, oh, yeah, it's definitely going to be her. Like, I was like, she's playing this, like, I thought she did really well, but I was like, she's playing this character, like, really odd. We had the scene where, after she murders, I can't even think, like, the character's name, Greg, like, after she bashes Greg's head in, she goes up, gets changed, and, like, she puts the makeup on and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Like, I was like, who does that? I was exactly like the characters. I'm like, who just, like, puts on the sweater and makeup? And I'm like, yeah, it's gonna end up being her. And then, it takes you for the twist.
Yeah, what I will say is I was leaning towards Greg was the killer even after Greg was quote unquote dead. Especially in the beginning, because there is that moment where he's the one that holds his breath the longest in the pool and he talks about his lung capacity. So obviously there is the scene where you first come in when they're playing the actual game, bodies, and he's faking dead. But I was kind of like, I don't think he held his breath long enough there to really, for that scene to be in the movie to show that he can hold his breath for a long time. I thought there was going to be something later on where it's like, I'm actually not dead. I was the killer all along or something, because now it just kind of feels like a slightly extraneous scene in the beginning. Like, I understand everyone in the pool are the ones that are dead by the end of the movie, but, it's kind of like I'm not really sure what the point of that line, I guess, was, or the fact that they were holding their breath or whatnot, other than the implication that if, you're not breathing, you're dead, obviously. So.
Yeah, like I said, I just went for the ride, like, and then I was convinced it was, I was convinced it was Emma, and, you know, I'll give out a shout out Chase Wonders, because she was in Daniel Isn't Real, which we reviewed. I did recognize her. So I was like,
okay, yeah, I did not recognize her from anything. I don't know if I've seen her in anything.
I think that's the only thing I've ever seen her in, but I did recognize her from that. But, like, I thought, then I was like, oh, yeah, it's for sure just going to be, like, she killed Pete Davidson. He was a D-bag.
I will say, yeah, that I guess the movie did an okay job of misdirecting who I thought. I did think that, okay, it was probably Emma killed Pete because he was a douchebag. And then I was like, okay, maybe it was Greg that killed Pete because, Pete emasculated him or, whatever. And then I was like, oh, I think Greg is faking his death type of shit, So it did keep me guessing a little bit, what I'd say in probably the first 30 to 40 minutes. After that point, I got to a point where I was just kind of so confused, and I think 3 or 4 of the actors just kind of sitting around talking about who's texting who and who's fucking who and who is rich and, oh, I'm not actually rich, I'm just upper middle class and all this shit that I was just like, I was kind of checked out at a certain point, that I didn't care really with how these conversations were going. They seemed like circular conversations where they just kept kind of coming back to where we almost started. It was almost just like filling time. And then, yeah, it's just... I was on board for about 30 minutes, I'd say. And then when I realized, oh no, the rest of this movie's going to be filmed in pitch black, yeah, I had a very tough time paying close attention to most of the movie, other than just like, shit, I can't fall asleep. I can't fall asleep. I don't know. Maybe it warrants a rewatch. I don't think it really changed much, though. It wasn't like I dozed off for 10 minutes or anything like that. I was lucid the entire movie. I just don't know if I was really on the same wavelength as it.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think that's reasonable. Like we said, I think this is gonna be like, you really like it or you really don't like it, and it's like one of, you're just tossing the dart and seeing where it lands.
We're just like the characters in the movie, just wandering in the dark. You don't know if it's gonna be for you or not.
That's really it, because I mean, everything on paper, like I said, I should really not like this movie, and I went in being ready to be like, nah, this is gonna be stupid, and then it just... Like I said, I went for the ride and I loved it. And I mean, I think if anything, anyone that's listening and you saw it already, but I will say, like, if for some reason you're listening to the spoilers and you haven't seen it, I cannot reiterate enough how much Pete Davidson won't piss you off. Because I thought he did good. Like, I thought it was a good role for him. I think he was kind of the perfect casting for that role. He does present, his comedy persona is kind of that, Gen Z, like, kind of douchebag, like, kind of asshole.
Yeah, fuckboy.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised by him. So, maybe that's why I really enjoyed it. Because I just... really was cringing at having to watch him in a entire movie, and I only had to watch him for a little bit of it, and I thought he was pretty good.
Conversely, I think you probably will hate Rachel Sennett in the movie as Alice. Her character is pretty vapid and pretty annoying and pretty like rich valley girl who's dating a guy or sleeping with a guy that's like 15, 20 years older than her. She's
I loved her.
I mean, it's a great performance, but like, God, the character is pretty annoying to a degree. Not as annoying as like the trailers make them out. That's what I'll say. The movie I actually didn't find to be annoying. I just found it to be boring, which in my opinion is almost the worst thing a movie could be, because if it's, once again, I've said this before on the show, if it's really bad, there's something for me to watch and basically be like, oh my God, this is so bad. There's almost like a learning experience from it. Like, this is not what I would do. If it's so good, obviously you watch it because it's good. There's all these different things you can take away from it. With this, I was just bored. That's all I can say with it. But
I'm really excited for Mike to see this because I know Alice is going to be a favorite of his. I was like, this character is tailor-made for Mike.
Oh, I think Mike would probably really much like this movie as well. Yeah, I think this would be like a Mike pick that, I don't know, I think like the actors are good enough that he'd probably call them like iconic or, Queens or whatever, it'd be his vibe for sure.
I thought that Rachel Sennett, is it Sennett?
Sennett, yeah.
Sennett, I thought she did a really good job, and to me, I guess I kind of took it as almost like a homage to like the vapid, kind of just like teen, Heather's Clueless, like these teen movie vapid characters.
Oh yeah, to be clear, I think she did a good job of what she was doing. It was just the character is so like vapid and dumb that it's like, oh my God, girl, like, it's just kind of annoying,
See, and I just feel like I said, it's just opposite reactions, because I was laughing like when they're screaming at each other and they're having the conversation about like how long has she known him? And she's like, oh, I've known him like long time. And then it's you find out it's like 2 weeks. Like I was crying at it. I was loving it.
Yeah. And like, once again, I do think those like little lines are funny. I think she is great in the movie. She was probably my favorite in the movie in terms of her performance. It's just the character is so dumb that it's kind of just like, I don't know how to describe it because once again, she was the one that kind of stood out the most for me, but also her character was incredibly, maybe annoying is even the wrong word, but it's just, I was just like, oh my God, this character. I was like rolling my eyes eyes a lot when this character was on screen, I guess. But yeah, is there anything else you kind of want to say before we just get into the rating? I don't really have any more notes to discuss here.
No, I think we talked about it enough, that I think if you haven't seen it, maybe you'll see it, and, if it sounds like something you're not into, you won't, so let's get in the rating it.
Yeah, so if you're new to the podcast, our review rubric is nay, okay, yay, or slay. So, Rowan, what would you give Bodies, Bodies, Bodies?
So I'm going to give it a pretty strong yay. I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, it's not a slay. I haven't decided yet in my Letterboxd review, is it going to be better than Jaws? I'll have to really think about that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I had a great time with it. Like I said, I was very pleasantly surprised. On my drive home, because I did have to go into the city, so about an hour away to see it, I turned on the Big Picture podcast where they interviewed the director about it, and that just kind of, I respected it even more. It was super interesting. We didn't bring up, like, the director's only done one other feature film that was like an indie film from like New Zealand or something called Instinct, but she's mostly known as like a stage actress in plays. That's kind of her wheelhouse. It was interesting just seeing her approach on this film and how she treated it kind of as a play, where it's kind of one setting and it's a lot of character driven, work, just conversations. But yeah, I just strong. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I'm a fan of whodunits if they're done well, and I thought this one was done well. And yeah, disaster piece, always making bangers. I thought the music was great. Whether it's his score or just the music they put into it, I've got to check. I'm not sure. This is how I guess old millennial I am, because some of the music I was kind of curious now. Like, did he do the stuff that sounded like it was pop songs, or were those actual songs?
Oh, the Board in the House song is like a Tyga song or something. So that's like an actual like licensed piece of music. Yeah. That's the main one that sticks out to me because they use it 2 or 3 times in the movie, I think.
Yeah. Go see it. Strong yay for me. What about you, Colton? What would you give Bodies, Bodies, Bodies?
It's getting a nay from me. It's not an emphatic nay. It's like, I can't give it an okay because honestly, I was so bored. And if I'm so bored, and like I said, the cinematography really annoyed me. I did not like the pitch black lighting. I didn't think the social commentary that I got from the movie, unless I'm missing something, was very enlightening or something that, it didn't really speak to me, I guess. And like I said, it felt like Hello Fellow Kids energy for a lot of it to me. It felt like the critics are going to like this because it's going to make them feel young and make them feel like they understand a generation like that their kids are probably from, So I don't know. It's not for me. I would give it a nay. It's not like the harshest nay. It's not like a they/them last week that I absolutely hated. This is just like, yeah, I was bored. I was disappointed. I think the acting is good, but I think there's just better murder mysteries you can find. And yeah, if you haven't seen Knives Out and you're in the, realm for a whodunit or murder mystery, that's, in my opinion, far superior, not even in the same league. So yeah, that's probably what I have to say about it. And yeah, if you made it this far, be sure to follow us on our social media at It Slays Podcast. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Slasher, Letterboxd, basically anywhere where there's social media, you can find us at It Slays Podcast. And Rowan, you know what time it is.
If you enjoy banners from movies we review or horror movies, go to the It Slays Podcast horrific playlist on Spotify, or any of the links in our social media on our link tree. There's a link directly to it. We put songs up. I'll have to put some stuff from this up because I was jamming the whole time. Yeah, so go check it out and get your spooky music on.
Yeah, I mean, definitely check it out. I'll have to at least check out the Disaster Piece tracks, like the original score for this, just because I do not remember it at all. I remember, like I said, some of the licensed music, but that's about it. But yeah, next time on the show, we haven't really figured it out yet. We're thinking maybe Beast, that Idris Elba lion movie. We're thinking maybe that. Maybe The Invitation. I think that comes out the end of the month. Not the Invitation from like 2015, 2016, the 2022 Invitation that I've heard might be a vampire movie. But yeah, we're not sure yet. We'll figure it out. We got some time to do so. So yeah, something will pop up in your feeds, I'm sure, within the next couple of weeks. And on the main show, we do have our Planet Terror, review coming. We're hoping to record that within the next couple of days to release next weekend. So yeah, just keep your eyes peeled.
We're back on schedule, so
I hope so. We shall see. And yeah, with that, I think that basically wraps things up for this week. So until next time, I'm Colton.
I'm Rowan.
And as long as you keep listening, we'll keep slaying.